And welcome back to the Michael Cohen Show on our continued journey to 500,000 subscribers. Let's get there. Hit subscribe, watch, comment, and share, because this stupidity, it's got to stop. Now, if last night's elections weren't proof enough that Americans are fed up, literally fed up with Trump and MAGA, because you know that I'm skeptical of polls. I don't believe in them at all. But Rachel Maddow showed some pretty interesting polls the other day that I do actually want to share with you. Let me show you what she said.
Let's start with the new CNN poll. New CNN poll shows that Donald Trump has never been more unpopular than he is right now. Donald Trump's disapproval rating in this new CNN poll, it's actually higher. His disapproval rating is higher than it was in the immediate aftermath of January 6th. After January 6th, a whopping 62% of Americans said they disapproved of Trump. Today, the number of Americans who say they disapprove of Donald Trump is not 62%, it is 63%. Elsewhere in this CNN poll, we learned that Americans say that Trump has hurt America's standing in the world more than helped it. And they say that by a 24-point margin. America, how do you feel about Trump tearing down the East Wing of the White House? Well, 10% of Americans say they like that. His support on that is 10%. More than 5 times as many Americans say him doing that makes them feel dissatisfied or angry. He's underwater by 44 points on tearing down the East Wing of the White House to build his ballroom.
It's 2/3 of this country are not pleased with the direction that this country is going in, if not higher. And obviously, the demolition of the East Wing, it's really striking a nerve with people, myself included. And on Mea Culpa, my guest, Harry Litman, and I, we explain why Americans are so angry, so freaking pissed with this ballroom nonsense, and what, if anything, can be done to hold him accountable. Play the clip. Right. Well, think about the pandemonium that they're causing, for example, now at the East Wing with the demolition.
Oh, yeah. Once we've opened that Pandora's box, forget about it. Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's pugnacious. I mean, let's talk
pugnacious.
Yeah, you think? So let's talk about the literal I'm not talking about figuratively. I'm talking about the literal demolition of the East Wing, home to the office of the First Lady. It is symbolic, and it is also authoritarian all at once. What does that act tell us about Trump's mindset and his approach to the rule of law? Because Americans are, here's a P word, pissed.
They are. And I think I have to use another P word and shift into it, and that would be profanity. Because really, Michael, who the fuck does he think he is? This is the place. Betty Ford, I think it was, who said, if the West Wing is the brains of the White House, the East Wing is its heart. And you just kind of document the things that have gone on there and all it means. And for him to, just the colossal arrogance of it. Presidents come in and adjust the decor a little bit kind of thing to actually, and remember, by the way, because we can also talk about his probity, because he said flat out, he wouldn't touch the East Wing, and now he's just demolishing it into thin air. Another, it's tricky to know the difference for legal purposes between what he's doing and other kinds of, way back when things were built, when we really needed them. He's doing this total megalomaniacal ballroom trophy to himself. It is horrendous. And what's the legal situation? I think it's just more, what is the political situation? I mean, really, I think this is one of the things. It's funny. You and I talk all the time about these, legal, absolute catastrophic or disastrous or lawless things. And then there are only a couple of them, I think, that at least for now stick to the American people. I think this is one. Like, what? You come in and he's just going to bulldoze a whole wing for some kind of self-glorifying Mar-a-Lago
By the way,
North.
why couldn't he just move it 10 feet down and not actually make it attached to the White House? Couldn't you have built like an archway attaching it? Like the way, for example, they didn't rip down, for example, the Louvre when they were building, when IM Pei, right, decided, they had that contest and IM Pei won to do the pyramid. And so work P for pyramid. Meanwhile, you want to talk about what's crazy?
Sydney, do you have like a little bell you can ring?
His pugilistic attitude towards this thing. My question I really want to ask you is, how is it even legal? This is the thing that was really on my mind. How is it even legal for a sitting president to bulldoze a functioning part of the White House without congressional oversight or the National Historic Preservation Review?
100% right. And I have thought about this, and certainly Congress could stop it, not a penny to you for this expenditure, and of course they will not. And I think actually there's a sinister aspect to bulldozing the East Wing, because when sanity is restored to this country, and I think you and I still think that's pretty likely, if not a certainty, there's no way of restoring here, right? Because the East Wing is gone. So you can demolish his stupid vanity project of the ballroom, but still then you leave a big hole. He's just what a creep. Okay.
Tell me something here. Does it matter that he's taking or receiving money from private individuals and from companies in order to pay for this $350 million ballroom? I expect the price will, of course, increase. But 350, he's not taking money from the government. Is that how he bypassed the congressional oversight? By making the claim that this is not costing the American taxpayer a dollar, therefore I do not need congressional oversight. Hence, if I don't need congressional oversight, I also have no interest in speaking to or conferring with the National Historic Preservation.
Yeah. So I think you're right. That's what he's thinking. It's clearly wrong-headed. Is it illegal? I think so. I think it's the same as getting the contributions to pay the military folks. Now, there is some precedent for, at inauguration, say, for getting contributions. But this has the extra really important factor. This is the people's house. And that's what he's bulldozing. So I said again, and you nodded right away, people are all too familiar with this now. There's a standing issue, who gets to, but what should be happening here in a sane, functioning democracy is Congress should stand up and say, you're trying to do what? Who the fuck do you think you are? And you can't spend a penny on it. And, if you do, we will impound it, and then you'll have to go to court. Then they'll be standing. But right now, with a totally pliant Congress, that's just not, happening. And so, he runs amok. But I agree, even though there are instances in which a president can use contributions to actually, think about it this way. Let's say he demolished the whole thing and put up a new Mar-a-Lago. Could that possibly, and these are one of the situations, by the way, I thought, where like what he's done is so out there, so outrageous, so beyond the pale that, you have to come up with new legal arguments to understand what's wrong about them. But because it's the people's house, I think, Michael, it in fact is illegal, and it's one of the 2,000 illegalities by Trump that we probably won't be able to redress while the courts are full of everything else, and he's just brazenly marching forward while the Congress does absolutely nothing. Again and again, you can't. One way of looking at this whole huge mess is there are Trumps around in the weeds everywhere, just like, failed artists who became Adolf Hitler, and the pieces have to be together on the board to make him achieve things. And here just look hard at the Republican Congress and maybe the U.S. Supreme Court, although I don't know if we'll talk about this, but there's slightly good news on that front, I think. But that's what lets it happen. The real prescription for what ought to be going on now is political, I think, and they're just completely MIA.
Yeah, well, I'll go one step further. I think he's crossed into a violation of public trust.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
right?
for sure.
I truly do. That's why 64% of Americans think that what he did, which, by the way, he did it so fast. Nobody had a second to blink. The entire demolition of the East Wing occurred in under 48 hours.
Can you imagine?
48 hours. No. So normally,
I gotta say, by the way, this has been effective. I hate to even use that word, but this is what Project 2025 has done for him. I don't think it's his doing exactly. Maybe it's Stephen Miller's, but the speed, the alacrity of this total, buzzsaw of illegalities has played to his advantage for sure.
Yeah,
that's since January.
They literally brought
Coming
in
out of the box
a back-end hoe, right?
Yeah.
They literally brought in a back-end hoe. There's no permits. There's nothing like that. If I wanted to remove a wall in my own primary residence, it would take me longer than 2 days. Within which he took down the entire East Wing as if it was some paltry, back outhouse, right? That you just knocked down. I mean, I never saw anything like it.
Who the fuck does he think he is? It's just true. Yeah.
And that's why so many people, but I will tell you something. The thing that bothers me more than the fact that 64% of Americans are pissed, and other people are pissed. How about the fact that there's still 36% of Americans that say, I don't care. It just, you know what? Trump wants to do it. Let him do it. He's going to build a big, beautiful ballroom, 90,000 square feet, which, by the way, is 3 times the size of the White House. Imagine that. 3 times the size. So technically, it's not the White House with a ballroom. It's the ballroom that has a building attached to it.
No, really important point, right?
Yeah,
for every visitor who goes
putrid.
There. Yeah.
That to me is
it's so true. And of course, these 36%, or sometimes it's 42. I mean, he's always under 50, but he's always got this, can do no wrong. Or maybe people just think, I don't know, I still have my job. I'm still going to Starbucks. It doesn't hit him personally. Well, but, I think it certainly would if they woke up and they're not living in a democracy anymore. But, I feel sort of arrogant or pointy-headed sometimes, Michael. I got to say,
petulant,
because you're there, sort of on your pedestal,
what about
making these points,
petulant,
and it just they don't hit home,
And what about petulant?
Yeah.
Am
I petulant? I don't think so.
Not you.
Sorry,
so I'd never call that to you, Harry.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I want to talk about this big, beautiful ballroom and this privatization of power. So Trump is calling it, obviously, his big, beautiful ballroom. Again, funded entirely by private
like Air Force, his new Air Force One, right? It's all his.
It's all his. Built. Yeah. So you got this entirely new, big, beautiful ballroom paid for entirely by private donors, built on federal property, shielded from public accountability.
Yep.
It is. Harry, what's the legal precedent, if there even is one, for a president privatizing part of the White House?
Yeah. So, and just think of, every third grade trip to come. And what is that, Mrs. McGillicuddy? It's, as you say, what's that elephant to the right of this beautiful structure? I've always found personally that, there's a dignity to the scope of the government buildings. You go to Washington, you've seen pictures, but now here's the White House. It's not so big, which I think is lovely in a way, but no more. And the legal precedent. Well, if this suit could be brought, the White House would talk about, previous, way back when, I think like Jackson, they had to build things because the White House was this really small place. Remember the whole idea, the big compromise in the Constitution, you can have the national capital in the South to, which is Washington, but we want certain federal power. So it had to be built up. It was a small, sleepy town, et cetera. But that's what President Jackson did this and that. And then there are things that have been a little bit more than just switching around the decor. So if the court ever were looking at it, in a clear-eyed way, it would just have to do, I think, with the scope and magnitude that these precedents that the administration is pointing to just don't get you to demolition of the East Wing in 48 hours. But this is so friggin' crazy on his part that you're kind of dealing with creating first principles argument on the law. Who would ever have, done anything remotely comparable to even establish a precedent, right? Or for Congress to have to pass one. So, it's a weird landscape, and yet you just can't doubt that that courts would see like some limitations here. And I think demolition of a whole wing, I think, is on the other side of shifting around the paintings in the Lincoln Room.
Hey, everyone. First of all, thanks for watching. We're going to be posting daily episodes with reactions and talking about politics. We'll be talking about everything, in fact. So please like and subscribe. Join us on this journey.